Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Emog Holmes and I'm a mental health clinician at the Wellness Center over at Peridot Behavioral Health. So I'm here with you to share a little bit of information about teens and depression and suicide. September is National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and I'm going to go through a few slides with you together and hopefully it's informative and it's something that you can enjoy. So here we go. I'm going to start off with a myth. The myth is that suicide happens without warning. Well, the reality is that most teens who attempt or die by suicide have communicated their distress or their plans to at least one other person. And so that's why it's so important to understand what we're seeing. Maybe know the warning signs, know what depression looks like, and we're going to go through that a little bit today. So some statistics here: every 40 seconds, someone in the world dies by suicide. And it leaves the people left behind are wondering, what went wrong? What could I have done? How do I make sense of this? For teens, every day, 14 teens take their own lives. Again, really sobering statistics. And if you're a teen watching, maybe some of these words on the screen reflect how you have felt or are feeling even right now. You may be feeling, I don't really understand what the point of my life is. You may be thinking, I'm often silent when I'm screaming inside. So this idea that you put on a face, a mask that is very different than what's going on internally. You may be thinking, does anyone else get sad when they're just laying in bed when the day is done with no one to talk to? Because that's how you might feel. You might also feel that parents or family make you feel unwell and they don't even realize the effect they may be having on you. You may have heard that you're too young to be so sad. Maybe an adult or someone in your life has said, you know, there's really no reason for you to be this sad. You're only this age. But the truth is, sadness and depression doesn't discriminate based on age. So depression affects all age groups, even young people. And that last image there, I just want to be happy again. And that's often how depressed teens feel. They really don't want to feel that sad. They don't want to feel depressed. They just want to feel happy. In most cases of suicide, a person does not really want to die. They just want the pain to stop. And understanding where that pain can come from or what generates that kind of intense pain is important for us to recognize as teachers, parents, community members, family members. So we know if a teen is having depression, that is a painful mental health situation. We cannot talk about suicide without talking about depression. They go hand in hand, really, because depression is very serious, so serious that it often ends in death, and that is death by suicide. So when we say someone is depressed or we're seeing symptoms of depression in a teen, I want us to be really careful about how we look at that and how we think about that, because it is serious. There can be loss or conflict with family, with friends. This is a source of pain and distress. Also, any history of physical or sexual abuse is a huge source of pain and trauma for a teen. Problems with alcohol or drugs. Alcohol and drugs, the idea is that they're going to take away some pain, but we know that's not what ends up happening. What ends up happening is that the drugs and alcohol may mask pain for a while, but the pain is still there and it's real. And when you're in a state of disinhibited by drugs and alcohol, ending your life seems like a good choice because you're not thinking clearly. And so the use of drugs and alcohol, particularly when you're depressed, is actually very dangerous. Source of pain may be physical or medical issues, maybe a teen pregnancy, maybe an STD, something that is you're struggling with a medical diagnosis that's hard to manage. These are all sources of distress. Being a victim of bullying is a huge source of distress and emotional discomfort. Being uncertain of sexual orientation, and this is something that I see more and more of as a teen, as a young person. There are times where you're not sure, you're investigating. Am I heterosexual? Am I bisexual? Do I have same-sex attraction? I need to talk about this with someone. I need to explore this and understand myself. And so this can be very stressful and distressing, especially if the youth or teen feels that the family may not understand their perspective. And so, again, a real source of anxiety and depression. Maybe our teen has read or heard or been witness to an account of suicide, or knows a peer, family member, student, someone that has also died by suicide. This is also very distressing, and also, you begin to think, well, is this an option then? Because he or she did that. Maybe it's an option for me, and that can be very dangerous. Teenage bullying is very real. We see bullying in person, we see cyber bullying, all sorts of bullying that takes place, and it really needs to be addressed when we see it as an adult or as a peer. This is not something that only adults can intervene in. If you see bullying happening, you can do something as a young person. Bullying victims are 5 times more likely to commit suicide. That's pretty serious. And I know there are reports in the news, on a regular basis about young people, very young, in fact, ages 9, 10, 11, that have completed suicide because of some bullying that was happening. At least that's what, in the end, it came out that might have been a trigger to their decision. So the person that's being bullied oftentimes can carry around a smile on his or her face and say, I'm fine, but inside, as that image depicts, not fine, sad, crying, stress. So let's be aware of this happening. Oh, and I really like that image because here she's trying to write her own script, right, kind of for her life. I'm, beautiful. But all these other messages are coming at her: ugly, stupid, immature, disgusting, worthless, right? And I bet we can think of other things that we've heard either come at us or come at our friends from people bullying them. So those messages are hard to combat, real source of stress. Remembering that breakups are going to happen. Oftentimes, your first love is not your only love. And so as teens, there's relationship issues. There are going to be romantic relationships that end badly. There are girlfriend, boyfriend breakups. There are friendship breakups. Those that were your friend that decide they no longer want to be your friend. There's all sorts of emotional ups and downs as a teenager. And as adults in their lives, we want to make sure we take those breakups seriously. A loss of a friend is a big deal. A loss of a girlfriend or boyfriend is a big deal. And it doesn't matter really how long they were dating or what that looked like, or if it was all like via social media. If it's important to the teen, it's important. Teenage years is a time when there's a lot of passion, a lot of energy, a lot of emotion, and that's really good. And then when something like a breakup happens, sometimes we're like, oh, that's really bad because it just seems so intense. And the message here really is, this is important because oftentimes breakups, if I'm going to be really, truthful about this, breakups sometimes initiate a downward spiral where the teen may feel like ending his or her life. So it's important to take that seriously. Depression and suicide are very intertwined. And when you feel or are depressed, it may seem like overall sadness, but there are many, many layers to that. And here are some of the layers depicted in this image here, where that big top part is just says nothing. And so the depressed teen often feels nothing. And I've heard this in my office. I don't care about anything anymore. I'm not feeling anything. It's nothing. Doesn't matter. And so that's one layer of depression. Another is the sadness. The sadness can come from all sorts of sources. Um, Another layer, self-loathing. That's self-hatred, not liking myself, comparing myself to others and finding myself falling short. Just not being able to look in the mirror, just being disgusted with oneself. Another layer there is anxiety. Depression and anxiety, very closely related as well. So you may see a depressed person also struggle with anxiety. Hopelessness, feeling like if their life is not worth living. There's no hope. There's no future for me. Feeling guilt, and maybe where guilt didn't exist before. This may be something new for you as a teen or for someone you're observing. And guilt is part of the diagnostic criteria. So we have a list of diagnostic criteria where we say, okay, we're going to monitor this and look at this as we assess, is there guilt? Is there thoughts of death? And so that's one of the criteria that we're clinicians, we use to say, you know, there's a diagnosis of depression here. So that's a pretty serious expression of depression. And then isolation. Isolation is caused by depression because you don't want to interact with people when you're depressed. And then when we isolate, we often get depressed because we don't have that interaction with others that is needed. We are social beings and we need people in our lives. Even if you're an introvert and I'm an introvert, you know, even if you're an introvert, there's a need for connection. And we just need to find what that looks like to keep us healthy. It doesn't have to look the same. You don't have to turn into this outgoing person that's constantly out there socially. You just have to know what you need to do to keep yourself in a good place. Some other symptoms of depression in teenagers are lack of energy and fatigue. You may be feeling very tired. You may be seeing, you know, yourself with less energy than you had in the past. This could be a symptom of depression. You may be self-harming, and this is a serious symptom that is associated with depression. You may see mood swings, like sort of going up and down, which is not just normal adolescence, it's something more than that. Low self-esteem, not feeling you're good enough. Trouble concentrating, not being able to feel pleasure, sleeping or eating too much and too little. So just some other symptoms of depression we should be aware of. So how do people cope? Well, I've heard this one a lot, and I think it's important to acknowledge it. I'll read that slide. It says, I needed the music to not be alone with my thoughts because they could kill me. Basically, thoughts could kill, so music helped. And I've heard this multiple times that music is a coping skill. And so if it is, then we need to respect that and understand that music is going to be an important part of our teenagers' well-being or your well-being as a teen. I really like this next cartoon. This is an artist that has a series of drawings depicting depression, and I particularly like this one. And here we have this teen, and he's got his headphones on, he's listening to music, and then this, what is, you know, like depression coming at him. But this music is acting as this like force field. It's like this shield, right? And I think it's titled Music Shield. And that depression can't get through because the music is providing a protection. I just thought that was really neat. These are some positive ways to cope with depression, and there are some negative ways. So I'm going to talk about the negative ways, and then we'll look at the positive ways. A negative way of coping, like we mentioned before, is using drugs or alcohol. This is not a quick fix. In fact, this is a way to make things worse. Another negative coping style is, again mentioned, isolation. When we isolate ourselves, this is a negative coping mechanism. When we refuse help, if it's offered to us, that is a negative coping mechanism. When we self-harm, that's a negative coping mechanism. Destroying property, making fun of yourself, blaming yourself, ridiculing yourself, self-sabotaging, all negative forms of coping. Crying continually is a negative coping mechanism. So here are some positive coping mechanisms. Develop a strong support network. That means identify people in your life that can provide support and encouragement to you. Improve your sleep. Find ways to relax at bedtime. Come up with rituals that will help bedtime and sleep come easier. That can be anything from, a hot drink to aromatherapy, smelling certain smells, certain aromas. Put your mind and body in a calm state. Lavender is one of those. For some, it's peppermint. Find something that works for you to improve sleep. It could be a guided relaxation, just even a progressive muscle relaxation. And all that means, it sounds really fancy, but all it means is that you start from the top of your head and go down to the tip of your toes and relax each muscle on the way as you lay in bed. And this will help you begin to feel what relaxing feels like. Because often we're in a state of tension and don't realize it. And so we go to bed and we're just so tense that of course we're not going to go to sleep. And so doing a relaxation exercise, which is nothing fancy, really just going through the body and tightening maybe and relaxing, letting our body understand what a relaxed mode feels like, will be an important part of improving sleep. Eating regularly, don't skip meals. It's important to have proper nutrition in your body. Creating a wellness toolbox. Again, that can mean anything that you need it to mean. It can be an actual box, like a shoe box filled with things that will remind you to be positive. It can be index cards. I've had people write some positive messages or things to remember about themselves on index cards, and that works really well. So whatever that is for you. Reducing your stress levels. Find out what other people are doing to reduce stress. Stress is an everyday sort of normal part of life in some ways. So we just have to figure out what we need in order for stress not to get the better of us. Figure that out, whether it's taking time to read for a little bit by yourself somewhere, sitting outside and meditating, praying, whatever that is that relieves your stress. Avoiding procrastination. Some of you are just natural procrastinators. You will put things off until the last minute because that's just your personality. It is difficult to catch up when you procrastinate too much. And for our teens there that are doing virtual learning now, it is very dangerous to procrastinate too much, because all of a sudden one late assignment gets to be 2 late assignments and 3 late assignments and 4 late assignments. And then by the end of the week, you have 5 late assignments. And now you feel like, oh, this is, overwhelming. I'm just not going to do any of them, right? That's not the answer. And so getting help with time management is going to be important. Seek the advice of people that will monitor your work and help you stay on task. Don't be afraid to ask for help in these areas. We all need assistance. Learn to curb negative thinking. So depression and depressed teens and depressed people in general tend to view the world with these negative glasses. And so everything you look at has this negative bent to it. And so that's happening in your brain as well. So these negative messages, whatever they are, I'm not good enough, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I can't handle life, nobody likes me, I'll never succeed. And all of these negative messages, and there's so many negative messages, right? Most of us can probably think of 2 or 3 negative messages off the bat, because that's what we do. Our brain goes, often straight to the negative. So it's going to take practice and developing a new habit of combating that negative thinking with more positive messages. It is a willful act to battle that. And it is a battle, right? So we're trying to say, okay, these negative thoughts keep coming and coming. I see the world through a negative lens, and now I have to combat it with positive thoughts. I have to, take these glasses off and put these on and see life with a more reality-based lens. And it's hard work. And we do this a lot in therapy. There's more to be said, but for now, we'll leave it at that. There's work to be done there. Keeping up with household chores. Basically, just keep doing what you need to do to maintain your life and have a normal life. Don't stop doing those things. Creating routines, having routines is very helpful when we're depressed. And just knowing that you need to get up at this time, that you need to log into school at this time, that you need to, this is the time for lunch, this is the time that you're going to spend doing homework, this is the time that you're going to do a little cleaning up or doing chores. Really important to have schedules and routine. It just is for mental well-being. I know it sounds like something like your parents want for you, just to make your life miserable, but it actually is a really good thing for all of us to have routines. And we're sort of routine focused people. Even our bodies, our circadian rhythm that is used to going to bed when it's dark and waking up when it's light. These are all, because your body is just a routine kind of organism. All right. Here are some more coping mechanisms. There's a whole list there of coping tools that you can see what helps. And it's a good idea to create a list like this for yourself, or use a list like this. And it's everything from, just taking a shower, to creative things like making a collage, finding out, what works for you is going to be important, doing a puzzle, playing outside, just things like that. We often don't take time to be grateful, and I want to take this time to say that that's an important component of well-being. Understanding that there are things that are hard, and that there are things that are frustrating and discouraging, and yet we need to look for things to be grateful for. Staying away from drugs and alcohol is, of course, is a must when we're struggling with depression. Or even when we're not struggling with depression, there's really no good that results from those kinds of ways to manage discomfort. Going out for a walk, being in nature. And this one is incredibly important on that list. It says, keep yourself in the present. And oftentimes people with depression spend a lot of time in the past, and that's not helpful. And maybe you can relate to that. Well, if only this hadn't happened, if only I had said that, if only I had intervened in this way, if I could go back, I would change this. But the truth is we can't go back. None of us can go back. And so spending a lot of time in the past is extremely debilitating and unhelpful. And so keeping yourself in the present and learning how to do that, because it's not simple, many of us just go straight there, living there. And it's very depressing. So learning the way that you're going to manage to stay in the present is going to be important. What can I do today, here and now, that is going to have a positive impact in my life? And having someone you trust, being able to talk to that person or people is very important in how you cope. Your story isn't over yet. And I like that because we all have a story and it's developing. And maybe your story is really short when you're young. And as you get to be in your teenage years, your story gets to expand and have more chapters. And it's an important story. And maybe it hasn't been a fairy tale. Maybe it hasn't been a pleasant story up until this point. Maybe there's been frustration and trauma and drama and really discouraging bits to it. But there's more to come. There are more chapters that have yet to be written. And I'd like to encourage you to remember that when you're feeling discouraged, is that there is just so much more that we can't even see from our perspective of being right here. More and more to be written in our book. Maybe God and your spiritual life is important to you. And if it is, I encourage you to use that. If God is a reason to live and to stay in a healthy place, then seek Him. I encourage you to continue to do that, even if others don't understand what that means for you and in your life. Find reasons to live. What happens if a friend is suicidal or shares some suicidal thoughts on social media? What do you do? Well, the first thing is to be there, to respond. We don't want to ignore this because we never, ever want to take a suicidal threat, or even, what we say maybe is a casual comment, don't want to take it lightly, because in the end, what we've learned is that ignoring comments like that could end in disaster. And so be there for that person, respond, and get help, get assistance from an adult in your family and that person's family. If there's no one like that available, get help from our team, Life is Precious, from police department, whatever it is you need to do to get help for that person. While that person is seeking that help or that help is coming, you may just want to express empathy and compassion and just say, I'm here to listen. I'm not here to fix anything because I can't. None of us can fix. We're here to support and just be there for that person while help comes, and get help and don't ignore. For parents and guardians, these are sort of red flags you may want to be aware of, and you may already know these things. Just a good reminder for all of us. If you hear a young person talking about wanting to die or about killing him or herself, that's serious. Talking about feeling hopeless, having no reason to live. Talking about feeling trapped. If someone says, I'm trapped, I can't take this anymore, it's just too much pain, red flag. Talking about being a burden to others. So when a teen or a young person feels like it's just too much for me, I'm putting too much on my family, they'd be better off without me. Those are serious red flags. Increasing or initiating use of drugs or alcohol that is meant maybe to dull pain or take care of pain, which we know it doesn't, is a red flag. Acting anxious or agitated, you may be seeing that. Sleeping too little, too much. Eating too little, too much. Withdrawing from others, feeling isolated. Showing rage, this anger that maybe wasn't there before. Talking or even seeking revenge. Things that we need to be concerned about. And displaying extreme mood swings. Maybe not the regular mood swings of a teenage individual, but just these extreme, from very, very okay and happy to very, very depressed, suicidal. For parents and guardians, I really like this little cartoon here. It says, you maybe think I don't care, but the real problem is that I care too much. And I thought this was so great because I feel like I hear this quite a bit. This misunderstanding of what people perceive and what's really going on internally. And this is so big that there's so much to be said here, but often what we show other people is not at all what's going on inside of us, right? And with teens, often it seems like, oh, they don't care about anything. They don't care about their school. They don't care about the family. They don't care about God. They don't care about doing things, chores. They don't care about this house. And it may be that what the teen is feeling is totally different from that. And we need to ask, well, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? And that idea of caring too much. Many times depressed teens, to me, it's almost like I see a visual, like they're just carrying this weight on their shoulders, like they're carrying a lot more than they need to. And it's a burden. And maybe it doesn't need to be their burden, but it's become their burden for some reason. I've got to be okay. I can't show people how I really feel. I can't do that. And all of that is so much pressure to keep secret and inside, that it just, what happens is paradoxically, it sort of turns into like, I'm not going to care about anything. It's hard to explain, but I'm sure some of you have seen that reaction in your teens. And the truth is most people do care a lot about things. Not caring is not often the reality. And then this slide, I know I'm in the way there, but teen stress. Teen stress is real. Just because someone is young and under 18 doesn't mean that they're not having stress in their lives. There's stress because of academics, and this virtual learning environment has created a whole slew of new stressors for teens and for our students. COVID-19, back in January of this year, we wouldn't have even been talking about some of these things. Now, there's so many stressors because of COVID-19. just the stress of not being involved and engaged in the school activities, uh, classroom activities, learning face-to-face, peer support. No more basketball, softball was cut short, volleyball, all of these extracurricular activities and sports and things that students had been involved in gone for right now. So that's a source of stress. Sometimes friends and family are sources of stress. Things don't always go well with family. Things don't always go well with your friends. And so that could be a source of stress that goes unnoticed or ignored. And then also, you know, that life has changed and technology is great and has brought very good things into the lives of our teens, but it has also elevated a level of stress where people are constantly available. And when someone doesn't answer a message or does not respond immediately to you, then all of a sudden it becomes very problematic. And so a high level of stress, so your stress level goes up if someone didn't respond to something that you wrote on social media or didn't respond the way you wanted to. And so social media has a tendency to increase stress. And that's the negative part of it. There's always the positive side. But so being aware of how you as a teen address those issues in social media and create boundaries around that for your own safety and for your own, you know, managing of your stress. For parents and guardians, I hear this from young people all the time. They want to be heard, and you know that. And we want to be spoken to in a respectful way. And so teens need to be respected as well. We want to respect our adults, our elders, the people that are helping us and in our lives that are set there to be role models for us. But we also want to be respected as an individual. All human beings deserve respect. All living creatures deserve respect. And so it's not, oh, well, I'm not going to respect that. You're only, you know, you're a kid. You don't respect. You don't deserve respect. I deserve respect. So it's a difficult conversation often to have, but everyone, every living creature deserves respect. And so I encourage you all to speak words of encouragement, not discouragement, to speak words that are nurturing and kind to one another, and that we listen respectfully both ways, right? Communication often breaks relationships apart. And what we really want to see is that communication brings people together in a way that is more loving and more gentle than what we're used to maybe. And that takes practice and it takes effort. It's always easy to do the thing that is easy. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's just easy to do the wrong thing sometimes. It's hard to do the thing that requires more effort. And it's easy to do the things that we're in the habit of doing. It is hard to create new patterns. And so I encourage you to do the hard work of creating new patterns of communication that enhance relationships and don't break them. Being strong is an important part of identity, and there are so many things that you can continue to do that create a strong community and a strong family. I encourage you to stay doing the things that are working, continue to involve movement and getting out there and walking, fishing, hunting, doing the things that make you feel good and part of your natural world and strong. Eat regularly, enjoy your food. Food is a time, and meals are a time where you can really gather together and enjoy life. Take time to relax, whatever that means for you. Music, enjoy time in creative expression, whether that's writing poetry, writing in a journal, creating a drawing, doing a weaving, quilting, beading. There's so many things that let your creative energy be put to good use. Pray, forgive yourself, forgive others. Make sure family and friends know that you care. It's so important to tell people that you care and that you're there for them. And remember, don't forget our little furry friends. When I hear my clients or come in, they talk about either a cat or a dog. That always makes me happy because I think it's important to know that our pets, our animals in our lives are there for us to love, and they love us back. So don't forget that pets are a source of strength. And remember, you are not alone. And asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. And so here are some numbers that you probably already have, but I want to give them to you. Life is Precious is available as your crisis team. 24-hour crisis line here, 866-495-6735. Tribal Warm Line, which you can call 24 hours a day. It is anonymous, 855-728-8630. And the Wellness Center for Behavioral Health Needs. No, that number didn't show up on that slide, but it is 928-475-1500. So remember, asking for help is a good and positive thing. When you need resources, when you need support, there are people here willing and able and just waiting to fill that need. So thank you for taking time to listen and to share these moments with me. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the month and the presentations that are going to come your way. All right, you take care.